Hey, what is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Wilson Dittman Sports Channel here on YouTube. We talk about everything related to basketball, whether it's players, whether that's staff, whether that's recruiting, right here on this channel. Wow, I mean, big news came out on Twitter today and throughout the news. Dylan Raiola, number one player in the country, according to every major recruiting site, has committed to Georgia. Georgia, man. I want to come on here and break it down for you guys and what I was thinking when it happened and where do we go from here? How should you look at it as a fan? How should you take this news? All right, let's get into it, man. I mean, it's been a weird recruiting process with him going to Friday Night Lights with Frost in... is that 2 years ago now that he did that? Two summers ago? Then obviously, I think it was 2 summers ago, which is wild. So when he was going into his sophomore year of high school, that was before he was rated a 5-star or anything like that. He came to Friday Night Lights with Frost, and he was nuts. And Frost pulled him aside, had his own thing with him, and everyone at that point in time, everyone knew he was special. And Nebraska fans knew he was special before all those other recruiting sites did and caught up to it. Then, of course, he committed to Ohio State. He got ranked 5-star, everything. Committed to Ohio State. Decommitted from Ohio State, and we got back in the recruiting process. And to the point where we're at now. But really, who were we to think we could land him? That's kind of what I want to say. I mean, we haven't made to a bowl game since 2016. We're coming off firing a coach who we thought was going to be the savior, and he's not the savior, and he was terrible. He was probably the worst coach in modern history of basketball. Now we have Matt Rule. And Matt Rule is going to fix this thing around, but Scott Frost burned so many bridges with Raiola already. It's just, you compare us to Georgia. Georgia has everything. Who are we to think we were going to get the number one player in the country? This is the closest we've ever got to. This is the best player we've ever got close to committing to us, ever, in modern history of basketball. I'm not going to talk about the 90s. I don't know recruiting in the 90s, but since 2000, this is the best player ever to even be interested in us. So this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. But who are we to think we're going to land him? At the end of the day, this is more likely than not. I guess I'm just frustrated about it because I thought he was going to commit here. I really did. At one point in time, March, February, I thought he was coming. Because there was all this talk about him potentially even being a silent commit to us, and that he was trying to get other people with him to commit, and that the staff was telling people that he was committed. And I talked about it before. I said, hey, guys, don't get your hopes up. Because around that time period, everyone was getting their hopes up that he was committed. And I said, don't get your hopes up. There's still a lot left. He's still got to take official visits. Everything could change. And it did. I don't know. I really do feel slighted. I feel, I'm kind of mad about it because 1 month ago, or maybe a month and a half ago at this point, he was in Lincoln, Nebraska. It was out of the blue. He just came randomly in Lincoln, Nebraska, and he went to a Nebraska basketball game, sat front row with Trev Alberts. In the crowd gave him a standing ovation. This dude stood up and started pumping up the crowd. Also 2 months ago, this guy went on an official visit here and went to a Nebraska baseball game and started Go Big Red chants. Everybody in the state of Nebraska thought this dude was locked down. Everybody thought he was locked down. And then suddenly, about a month ago, things switched, just like that. You started hearing all this Georgia smoke. Then you started hearing, of course, he was a silent commit to Georgia and that he wasn't taking an official visit here. Then, as of recently, there was some smoke that he might take an official visit. Obviously, that's dead now. And we're to the point we are where he committed today. And it's surreal. But I'm glad it's over so we can focus on get ourselves a real quarterback in this class. And that brings me to the second point. I'm glad he did this right now. Because if he draw this out any longer, let's say he drawed it out to August and committed, we would be royally screwed because every quarterback in the country would have already been committed. Right? I'm telling you, I've said this before on the channel. Signing day of old is not a real thing anymore. That is not when commits commit. The real time when people commit is the summer. That is where all the good commits are recruited and getting signed. Not signed, but they're committing. That is the new signing day. Is this summer? That's why the way it's been the last couple of years since COVID is because people need to lock down their spots on the team because of the transfer portal, so they commit in the summer. So if he committed, let's say August, we would have been screwed. We would have had no other option, and we wouldn't have had time to find a 2024 quarterback. So I'm glad he did it now because at least we have an opportunity to recruit some other dudes. And looking at our offer list, we only actually offered 7 guys in this quarterback class. Like, we were that locked in on Raiola. And only 2 of the 7 are currently not committed somewhere. And that is Alessio Miljavovich. Oh, butchered that name. He's not even ranked. He's a top 1,000 player 3-star. Like this. And then we have Alex Derby, another non-ranked 3-star. Like, these are not great players. That would be a massive downgrade. Those are the only guys we've offered. Now let's go. Well, I'm pulling up on my computer real quick. Let's go to the class of 2024. Class of 2024, 24/7. And let's look up every 4-star quarterback that is not committed. Because I guarantee you it's not very many. You have Elijah Brown, number 1. He's 1. You have Isaac Wilson. You have Michael Van Buren. And that's it. Oh, I shouldn't have even counted Michael Van Buren. He's not. He's a 3-star. So you only have 2 4-stars out of about 15 quarterbacks that are not committed. That's how quickly quarterbacks commit because they also need to put their spot in. So we really don't have another choice right now. We have to, maybe get somebody from who's already committed and try to peer recruit them and get them here. There's one guy that I want to go after, which is the current Georgia commit. So if you don't know, Georgia already had a commit in this class, Ryan Puglisi, and he was a 4-star. He's a top 50 recruit. That's a really good player right there. And he might feel one way. He might feel one way about Dylan Raiola committing. The fact they have 2 quarterbacks in class 2024. There was a statement that he said, "Oh, I'm fine, nothing changed," given that the Raiola committed. But that might not be the case. He might feel slighted. He might want to come here if we start recruiting him. I think that's a guy you might want to go after. So there's still options. But I just really don't want to get to the point where we are trying to bank on him decommitting. I don't want, I'm just going to tell you this right now. Even if he decommits, in some crazy world where he decommits, I don't want him. And I know that sounds nuts. What do you mean, Wilson, you don't want him? He's the number 1 player in the country. Well, I don't know. Even if he decommitted and came here, we would be his 3rd choice overall. Because originally he went to Ohio State. Oh, he messed up. Then he went to Georgia. Oh, he messed up. Then he went to Nebraska. So even if he decommitted, we'd be his 3rd choice. If he really wanted to be here, if he really wanted to be a Nebraska Cornhusker, if Dylan Raiola said to himself, "I want to be a Nebraska Cornhusker," we wouldn't have been his 3rd choice. And you wouldn't have committed and decommitted twice. So even if he does decommit, which I don't foresee happening, I don't think he will. So don't even bank on that happening. Don't even bank on it. But even if he did, I don't want him. Let's move on. Let's try to get somebody else. This is an important class to get your guy, right? I mean, when Frost came along, he got his guy, Adrian Martinez. When Mike Riley came along, I'm trying to remember who that was actually. When Mike Riley came along, he got his guy. Who was it? Who was his guy? This is going to haunt me. I have to go look it up real quick. Holy cow, this is going to haunt me. Patrick O'Brien. Yeah, Patrick O'Brien was his guy. That was his guy, for better or worse. So every coach we've had here has got their quarterback once they get here. So we got to go get ours. And Dylan Raiola ain't it. I'm sorry. Let's just talk really quickly about why he picked Georgia. I don't really think I need to go in detail. One, Georgia's just, they're better. 2 consecutive national championships, it's hard to say no to. right? Good development. He sees the development. Stetson Bennett's a great example of development. Somebody posts on Twitter, "Oh, I'm so glad for Dylan Raiola," but Georgia hasn't shown that they can develop quarterbacks. What do you mean they haven't shown? They just developed Stetson Bennett from a walk-on 0-star to a Heisman candidate in a back-to-back national championship winner. Are you kidding me? They have shown more than any other program in the country that they can develop quarterbacks. Because, frankly, Alabama hasn't shown me they can develop quarterbacks. They just take 5 stars. They just take 5 stars. It's way more impressive for a team like Georgia to take a 0-star walk-on and make him really freaking solid. So yeah, I think Kirby Smart has proved the ability to develop quarterbacks. So that's number one, and they're an NFL factory. The second thing, and this is what Nebraska fans do not understand yet, and they will understand it, but this was Dominic Raiola's choice. Okay? This was his father's choice just as much as it was Dylan's. If Dominic Raiola, in his heart of hearts, wanted Dylan Raiola to land at Nebraska, it would have happened. But there are multiple reasons, like I've talked about before, that Dominic Raiola does not want Dylan to go to Nebraska. Okay? And I'm going to detail them for you. One is the connections here. Frost burned a big bridge with Dom. Huge bridge. And I know Frost isn't here anymore, but you know who is? It's Matt Davidson. And there's a lot of issues with him running the collective right now for the NIL. And that was one thing that they were not happy about. Okay? The second thing is competition and competitiveness. Dominic Raiola shows it more than any other player. And you should know this if you're a Nebraska fan, right? He wants to win in every scenario. He is not going to settle for less. He's not going to settle for his kid to go to a loser program. I mean, think about it right now from Dylan Raiola. Dylan Raiola has transferred 3 times in high school. Why is that? The first time it was because everybody moved out of their program and he needed to go play for a competitor in Arizona. And the second time it was a very similar situation. There was a lot of allegations going on at his second school, and players were transferring out, and he's like, I'm not gonna be in a sinking ship, and Dom got him out of there. So you could already see from high school that Dominic Raiola was not gonna settle for his son for less. He was not gonna do that. So why would he settle for less in Nebraska? He loves Nebraska. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people think that Dominic Raiola, though, is heads and heels for Nebraska and that he's pushing for Dylan to go there. That's not the case. That could be more inaccurate. Because what really came down to it is Dylan Raiola wanted to go to Georgia and Dominic agreed. Because I'm telling you this, especially if you've seen Dominic's parenting style, this was just as much his decision as it was Dylan's. And he was on board. If anything, I think he might have pushed him and said, hey, go to Georgia. Because Georgia's not only going to make you an NFL player, you're going to win a lot, you're going to win a national championship, and I can't guarantee you that in Nebraska. It's a risky gamble. And yeah, Nebraska did all they could. And the fans did everything. I'll tell you this. You're going to have, if you came to Lincoln, Nebraska, you'd have a home here more than you would in Athens. And the fans will love you forever. And you become a legend. But he doesn't understand that. And nor should he. It's selfish of me to just only bring that up as our only recruiting tools. It's selfish of me. Because this kid has aspirations that are bigger than college. And for that reason, it's right of him to go to Georgia. And if I were in his same shoes, I would too. So, here's my little rant. I saw a lot of people on Twitter today and everyone else. They're like, oh, I feel so bad for Nebraska. They, legacy kid. They did everything they could to get him. They gave him a standing ovation. Everybody in the state of Nebraska knows this guy's name. Nobody in Georgia knows Dylan Raiola's name. I mean, they might know it now, but they weren't on this dude when he was, a freshman going to Friday Night Lights camps like we were. Like, we knew this dude's name before he was a 5-star, before he blew up, before he got that Georgia offer. We knew this guy's name. But people are saying, oh, I feel so bad for Nebraska. Why? Don't feel bad for us now. What? We've went through hell and back in the last 5 years, and you feel bad for us because we lost a quarterback commit. I'm not sad about this. I'm disappointed, perhaps, but I can't feel sad about a player that Never had. I never had Dylan Raiola. He was never on the team. So why should I be here and sad? I'm not, why are you, for example, why are you feeling sad for us right now? Okay, this is not even anything. This is not a fraction of what we went through the last 5 years. This is not a fraction of what we went through. All the losing, all the, boasted Kool-Aid that never came true, losing games that we shouldn't have. Having transfers leave the program, our best players. But you're sad for us about Dylan Raiola, right? That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing of what we dealt with. Incompetence at coaching, incompetence from our AD. I mean, we went through. We haven't beat our rivals until last year for 10 years. But you feel bad for us now. I'm not going to feel sorry about a player I never had and who obviously does not want to come here. I love Dylan Raiola, man. I'm going to root for him like hell. But he doesn't want to be here. And he had 2 opportunities that if he wanted to be here, he would have committed. In both opportunities, in both instances, he chose a different program. And I'm not going to wait around for him to decommit if he does and come here. And if he enters the transfer portal, let's say he enters the transfer portal, and I would not be surprised if he does after year 1. Because if he doesn't start right away, Dominic might just say, hey, get out of there. Because that's the way Dominic is. Okay? If he enters the transfer portal, I also don't want him. Because he had his choice. He had his choice. He could have been the guy. He could have came here. He could have been the hero among heroes. He could have been different. He could have been different, man. You see all these guys go to the same schools every time. He could have been different. He could have been a legacy for other players. He could have been a trailblazer. And he didn't do it. And it is what it is. He's an 18-year-old, 17-year-old kid. That's what happens, man. And I do not blame him. I don't blame him. So all in all, don't freak out. It is what it is. Life goes on. You can't be mad about a guy that you never had, a commit that you never had, and a guy who clearly does not want to be here. So let's move on. Let's get our quarterback commit of 2024. There's still a lot to be excited about in the Rule era. There's still a lot to be excited about. Yeah. Disappointed is the word. Not sad. Disappointed is the word. But, Dylan, if you're watching this, you are not watching this, but if you are, it is what it is, man. I respect your decision. I respect you going there. But time for us to move on as Nebraska fans. And I am ready to root for a quarterback who wants to be here. I'm ready to root for a guy who wants to don the Nebraska uniform and be a trailblazer and be a part of something special. Going to Georgia, you're not really doing anything, right? You're just kind of winning another natty. They've already used to that. They're used to winning natties. If you're to go there and win a natty, oh, cool. Just another guy, though. Just like every Alabama quarterback that ever commits there. You're just another guy. That's all Dylan Raiola is going to be at Georgia. It's just another guy. Here, it could have been special. But I don't blame him. I do not blame him. If I were him, I would do the same thing probably. But that's my analysis, guys. That's my analysis. Don't freak out. It is what it is. Life goes on. We're gonna get a 2024 quarterback. A lot to be excited about in the Rule era. And Dylan, wish you the best. But that's me signing off here on Wilson Dittman Sports. Thank you all for watching. If you did like the video, breaking it down, please hit the like button, comment, and you do in fact subscribe. I will personally respond to all of your comments. And without further ado, have a good one.